Okay guys, welcome to the 140.6 media tutorial on the Ironman Lake Placid bike course. I've ridden this course roughly half dozen times, raced last year. So right now we are starting out at the 180 degree turn just at the mount line, where you're going to see all the parts of the course. You're going to see the Keen descent, you're going to see the infamous Colden Ave drops, and you're going to see the God Market and Foundation hills, as well as the Route 86 climb up the notch. So get your bottles filled, get on your trainer, let's go for a ride. So here we go, guys. You're on the bike, you've just come out of transition, you've just got out of the water. You just got on the bike, and the first thing you see is a downhill 180 degree turn, which normally wouldn't be a problem, except you're making that very same 180 degree turn with about 30 to 40 other cyclists who are doing the same thing as you. So now what's going to happen is you're coming down, and you're now on Colden Avenue. There won't be, on race day, there won't be these cars here. This will be wide open, and it's dangerous. This is probably, in my humble opinion, the most dangerous section of the entire Ironman Lake Placid bike course. There's so much that can go wrong here. You've got two major hills to deal with, and a 90 degree turn at the bottom of the hill. Now, these two hills will have you going roughly 35 to 40 miles an hour. Now you can't really see them because they've covered them up for public relations purposes, but behind that blue tarp over there are hay bales, and they're there for a reason, because every year one hotshot who thinks he's Ricky Bobby comes down here at 50 miles an hour, catches an edge, and goes flying into the hay bales, ending his day in the first 2 minutes of his race. So now you're on Mill Street, you're making a right onto Sentinel, which will turn into Cascade in a couple of moments here. So right now you're just chilling. You know, you're trying to get your legs and your wits about you after the 2.4 swim. This is all, you know, low to medium cadence. You know, your race hasn't even really started yet. So you've got a major climb to make coming out of town, and on the second loop, these small little hills are going to feel ginormous. These hills on the second loop are just going to be relentless. So now you're cruising along. If this is your second loop, right about now you're eating. You got a nice flat section. You don't have to worry about making any climbs or any descents. If it's the second loop, traffic isn't going to be that great in this section of the course. So this is going to be a good time to take a gel or two, maybe eat the peanut butter sandwich you picked up in special needs, maybe get some hydration in you, and just get ready. If it's the first loop, you are amped. You are so psyched that you got out of the water. You know, you want to hit this section of the course all Tour de France like. Don't do it. Don't even think of doing it, because you will pay on the second loop most dearly. The trick to the Ironman Lake Placid bike course is very simple. Your first loop, you should be riding at a pace and a cadence that you can literally stop and smell the roses and see everything that's going on around you. Because let's face it, Ironman Lake Placid is far and away one of the most scenic courses in all of the Ironman series races. There's some good folks training. So now you're heading out of town, and this is where the loneliness begins, because if it's your first loop, you got out of transition, you came down Colden Ave, you know, you saw the people on Sentinel and Mill Street, and you're stoked. You are absolutely stoked. If it's the second loop, you're a bit tired. you just came through downtown, through Parkside Drive and onto Main Street, and then behind the high school, and you felt like a rock star for about 10 minutes. Well, now you're back out here, you're by yourself, and now you're tired. Now, this is actually one of the more scenic, well, historically scenic parts of the courses, because to the left, you've got the 1980 Winter Olympic torch that's still there, and then straight ahead, as you can see, are the ski jumps. And I don't care how many times you come to Lake Placid, no matter how many times you volunteer or do this race or just come here with your family, ski jumps are amazing. So now here's where the real work begins on the Ironman Lake Placid bike course. You actually get this nice downhill roller, and this is a serious downhill grade. This is probably, I want to say maybe 4 to 5%, and it's nice because it gives you a a nice little rolling head start into the climb that you're about to hit. Now, a lot of people, I'm not one of them, but a lot of people will say that this is the actual most difficult part of the Ironman Lake Placid bike course because of this climb being so early in the loop. I'm not sure I agree with that. Now, I'm not going to discount the gradient of the climb. I mean, as you can see, we're climbing, and we're going to be climbing for quite some time here. But I think that the place on Route 86, when we come back from Ausable Forks, is going to be, you will see, as a far more difficult climb. Now, this is a consistent climb. I'm not going to deny that. And on the second loop, this hill is going to be a grinder. You are not going to be liking yourself on the second loop here. As you saw, that athlete we just went by, cresting the top of the hill, looked a tad winded, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen. This course, the Ironman Lake Placid bike course, is no joke. There's some more athletes training. I seriously doubt any of those are folks who will be racing tomorrow. Those are possibly folks out here experiencing the course, checking it out, seeing if it's for them. I think that's necessary. If you guys are going to spin to this video, and I'm glad you guys do. I'm glad you guys like the 140.6 media videos, but Lake Placid is a bike course that you have to experience before you decide whether or not you want to lay down your money and enter this race. So now we're going to hit a little bit of a downhill roller here. I believe on race day there's an aid station coming up here somewhere, I think just past the Cascade Inn. And yep, there it is. You can see the markings on the right side. This is an aid station. And also, we just passed on the second loop. It's the 60-mile mark. Now, I'm usually not a big fan of two-loop courses, but Ironman Lake Placid gets an exception simply because it is so scenic and so beautiful and so difficult. I mean, granted, there is no such thing as an easy 112-mile bike ride. I get that. I agree with you. But this course, you earn your medal. So now, as you can see, we've hit another roller, and we're getting ever more closer to the infamous Keene descent. probably one of the most famous parts of the Ironman Lake Placid bike course, second only to the Three Bears, which you will see later on in this video. Now, one of the things that I did after riding this course so many times is I broke the course down into checkpoints. Not so much aid stations. I mean, you can get away with that on the run course, but on a bike course, it's still 112 miles, and you need something to break up the monotony. And I figured out that there were spots that if I reach this, you know, I'm so far along in the race. And granted, you could do that with the mile markers, but for me, the way my mind worked on this bike course, it wasn't exactly every 10 or 20 miles. You know, there were parts where you would hit a hill and you would start getting winded, and you would see this landmark, you know, okay, I got a downhill roller coming up, so mentally you could bear through the climb you were making here. We're getting real close to one of those said checkpoints. We should be coming up to here pretty soon. Right there it is, right on time, the Mount Hovenberg Recreation Area, better known as the bobsled runs. During the summer, they have what's called the wheeled bobsleds, and they put rollerblade wheels on the bobsleds and send you down at, I think, 70 or 80 bucks a pop. They're open today, as a matter of fact. Maybe sometime. Okay, we're right around the corner, literally, from the beginning of the Keene descent. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the Keene descent before we actually arrive to it. There's two trains of thought for this portion of the course. There's some folks who believe that, you know, if they had a bad swim or they had a bad transition, they could make that time up on the Keene descent. I'm not so sure I agree with that. A couple guys smarter than I did a study and said that if you hammer the Keene descent, or if you ride the Keene descent normally, there's about a 3-minute difference in the times. Now, 3 minutes is 3 minutes, but 3 minutes in a 15-hour day? Are you kidding me? Especially when you're running the risk of crashing. So here we go, guys. Those signs that you went by, the use low gear signs, again, checkpoint. That's telling you we are on the Keene descent, and it is on. So now, me personally, I've got nothing to prove. You know, I'm one of those guys who does races to finish and have a good time. So I'm doing what this athlete in front of us is pretty much doing. I pretty much coast down the Keene descent and maybe crank on these rollers. See, now I would have, if I was that athlete, I would have cranked up this roller to gain some extra speed coming back down this side. Now on the left side, you're going to see a stone wall. Now, if you're doing the race, this is important, because on that stone wall is the photographer. You always want to look good for the photographer. There he is, right there on the left. On the right, by the way, is Cascade Lake. Very good fishing there, from what I am told. Very scenic. You know, while you're zipping along at 40 miles an hour, you got some cool things to see. Always a good time. So now you got another little climb here. This climb is, for as gradient as it looks, it really is nothing, because you're hitting that climb at anywhere between 35 and 40 miles an hour. So now you came on the downside of it, and now you're moving. You're moving again. Now, some folks think that this is a good time to maybe grab a drink, hydrate. Of all the spots on the Keene descent, maybe this would be the spot to do it. But I can pretty much assure you, with the portions of 73 that are still unpaved, I'm not sure, you know, pulling a drink right now would be the wisest of strategies, especially when you're going to be exerting so little energy on this descent. I would wait till we get to the bottom. You'll see at the bottom of the Keene descent when we make the turn onto 9N. You'll see where we make the turn onto 9N, and that's where you can start pulling your drinks and your hydration, getting something to eat. Now, on race day, it is imperative that you do not lose focus on the Keene descent, not only because of the extreme speeds. These roads, yes, the New York Department of Transportation did a great job paving portions of the Keene descent, but for the most part, this is what you're seeing. Now, this road is bumpy, and people are hitting these bumps at, what, 40 miles an hour, and the pros will go even faster. You hit these bumps at 40 miles an hour, you got bottles flying off your bike. And now you've got these big plastic water bottles sliding all over the street, creating obstacles, which normally isn't, I mean, it's bad, but it's not too bad if you're out there and it happens way ahead of you and you can see it and you can make your course corrections and miss the water bottle. But if the guy just in front of you drops a water bottle right in your lap, there's a decent chance that you're going down, and you're going down hard. You're going down at 40 miles an hour. Not a pleasant thought at all. Right now, I haven't touched the gas pedal. I have not touched the gas pedal, and I'm going 45 miles an hour. We are coasting at 47, 48 miles an hour. And that's about the speed, maybe even a little faster, that the pros will take the Keene descent. For us age groupers and us mere mortals, we're looking at anywhere between 38 and 40 miles an hour. And I got to tell you, on the second loop, I was leaning on the brakes halfway down this descent. And I'm glad to see that it's paved. It's really good to see that the Keene descent is now paved, because for a bunch of years prior, Route 73 coming down the Keene descent was cracked. There were snowplow tears where the snowplow bounced off the surface, creating these little chop marks in the road, and you know it wasn't a very safe ride. I mean, the coast, you know, the ride down the Keene descent was as exhilarating as it gets, but it was still a dangerous ride that you had to maintain focus for. And the Keene descent goes for approximately 10K or 6.2 miles. Some more athletes out there training. Now, I think this is the last major dive before we get down into the village of Keene. I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far. We've got at www.140.6media.com, we've got other Ironman branded races, as well as Challenge and Rev 3. So 140.6media.com for all your training videos and all your nutritional needs. So go check it out as you're training for your season. Now, as you can see, we are dropping. We are descending rapidly. Now, this is another thing that folks talk about with the Keene descent, is that makes it so difficult, is we literally made a 120 degree turn, and now we're about to make another roughly 90 degree turn, and you're doing all of this at roughly 40 miles an hour on a bicycle. And now we're coming down into the village of Keene, and you've just about completed the Keene descent. Got a little bit more to go here. I know when I got to this point, my race here last year, with between the water on the roads, the slippery road conditions, the cracked road conditions, the water bottles bouncing all over the place, I got to the bottom of the Keene descent frazzled. I was toast when I got to the bottom of this hill, especially on the second loop. Now, here comes something really cool that all the folks training try to go for. It'll be coming up on the right. The cyclists try to set off the speed meter. See it over there on your right? The cyclists will try to get themselves to be read on the speed meter. Kind of cool little thing. Now, as we get to the bottom of the hill, we're going to make a left turn onto 9N. We'll be coming up here shortly. And the reason I spoke about it a little bit early here is because on the right is going to be this really cool little general store. And granted, you can't do anything on race day, but if you're coming out here to train, as you can see, it's already crowded and packed. Over here on the right, the Adirondack Cafe is a fantastic place to stop, refill your water bottles, grab a little something to eat, hang out. Usually on a weekend that's not a race weekend, you'll get a ton of cyclists in there. Now we're making a left onto 9N for one of the more scenic portions of this course. As we see, we got a couple athletes on the right here strategizing for the 9N stretch. Okay, now we're on 9N, and now we're gonna go all the way out to Ausable. Now, there's a couple small rollers here, but for the most part, this is going to be fun, flat, and fast. You know, we talked about, you know, should you get nutrition and hydration on the Keene descent, and I advised strongly against it, and this is why. Look what you're on right now. You literally coasted for 6.2 miles down that screaming hill, and now you're on a nice flat area, nice and quiet. You know, you can put yourself into a good solid cruising gear where your cadence is nice, and now you can pull out your chews, your goos, whatever, your peanut butter sandwich you saved from bike special needs. Now you can empty a bottle, because coming up here in a couple miles is going to be an aid station where you can pick up a couple fresh Perform bottles. And I don't care what anyone says, I like the taste of Perform. And no, I'm not an Ironman homer, I just like the taste of the stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about that. This little hill here on the second loop was annoying But this downhill on this side was actually kind of cool, because it was like a false flat downhill that seemed to go on a little bit longer than it actually looks. You would think that the false flat ends about here, but it doesn't. It actually this false flat downhill actually ends around the corner here. So now you're cruising. On the first lap, you're riding along. On the left side, you've got one of the forks for the Au Sable River, and it's actually pretty soothing. You hear the water rustling. It's kind of nice. Here's another little uphill, but I don't know. Neither loop, this hill, affected me one way or the other. Oh, the porta potties are out for race day. That's a pretty smart place for one. The porta potties look like they said do not open till Christmas. So now you got a nice little downhill here, and you're doing well here. If you're a decent cyclist, this is, again, if you're a decent cyclist, this is where you're going to make up your time that you may have lost on the swim, or a misexecuted transition. This is where you're going to make it up. This is a place where, if you're a really good cyclist, you can crank on this section. For the average age grouper, on the first loop, you're sightseeing. You're looking for bears. You're looking at the babbling brook over here on the Au Sable River. You're talking to your fellow athletes. You're just cruising along. It's been said on the first loop of Ironman Lake Placid's bike course that you want to be able to remember everything you saw. You don't want to be out here on the first loop hammering and trying to crush it, because the second loop of this bike course will absolutely end your day. Because we haven't even hit the two most difficult portions of the course. The God Market Foundation Hills, and then the infamous climb up the notch back to Placid. So now we should be coming up around this bend a little bit. We should be coming up to the first bike aid station. Now, if you ride aero, this is like that athlete we just passed. That's what made me think of it. This is a good place to ride aero. Nothing real technical, nice and relatively flat. Drop down into your aero bars and start hammering. Now, one of the more important things you need to keep in mind with the Lake Placid bike course is the topography. And I'm not just talking about the hills, because there's plenty of hills that you have to contend with. There's weather. I remember last year when I came up for the Fireman Ironman camp, we were doing 2 loops of the bike course as part of the camp. And on the first loop, people over by the Bears were getting rained on, while people out here on 9N were literally sunny and dry. You know, it's a joke that many people talk about Lake Placid, that if you don't like the weather at Lake Placid, you know, just wait 15 minutes. Well, there is an element of truth to that. There really is an element of truth to that. And now we're making the right, and we're heading out towards the Jays. Now, the tape that you saw on the roads, that tape isn't going to be there on, you know, any other weekend. You know, the course is set for the race, which, by the way, is tomorrow. So we're out here the day before Ironman Lake Placid 2014. So the beauty of it is, and we're going to talk about this, there's turnarounds that, aside from race day, will go unmarked. Okay, that parking area half a mile on race day is going to be one of your aid stations. Aid station, porta potty station. Now, I can't say enough about the volunteers at Lake Placid, especially on the bike course. They really do you a great service. They are very, very helpful. Many of the volunteers are athletes who have done the race prior and pretty much know what you're going through. If you're doing the race, make sure you thank them. So while we're actually talking about that, let's talk about some aid station etiquette. If you've never done an Ironman distance race, your first couple aid stations are going to be confusing. You're not going to really understand what's going on. But by the third or fourth aid station on the bike, you'll have it down. The way it works is simple. As you're coming up to the aid station, there's going to be a big hockey net, a real hockey goal. And those are for your empties. So you're going to take your empty water bottles and you're going to try to score a goal. You're going to throw them into the hockey net. You're going to aim for the hockey net. And after that, I believe it goes perform, water, food, water, perform. It may have changed, but I think that's how I think you begin and end with perform, and then the middle is water, and then the food is in the center. If you don't want anything from the aid station, which why anyone would want to blow by an aid station is beyond me, but if that's what your head is at, swing wide left, because people are going to be slowing down. Actually, here comes the aid station up here, because there's the porta potty. Yeah, that's right, the aid station was before the hills coming into the Jays. Yeah, this is the aid station right here. Now, if you're looking for aid from the aid station, I'm not saying you maintain your speed, but do not, and I repeat, I can't say this enough, do not stop at an aid station. You will cause a multi-car pileup. I can't stress it enough. When you're grabbing for bottles, if you miss it, if you drop it, screw it, keep going. There'll be another one a couple 20 or 30 feet in front of you. But do not stop at an aid station. You can stop at an aid station, but you have to go past it. Where all the drops are being made,